Hey there. Ready to unlock some next-level productivity? We're diving deep into time management for entrepreneurs today.
Absolutely. And we're going beyond those basic tips everyone's heard a million times.
Right, we're past the make a to-do list phase here.
Exactly. We're talking about strategies that are tailor-made for those of us building something from the ground up.
You know what? The article you sent over this time, it's got some real gold in it.
Totally agree. What I found fascinating was how it tackles goal setting. It goes beyond the usual SMART goals.
Okay, because we all love SMART goals, but I'm sensing there's more to this.
There is. They introduced this thing called OKRs, objectives and key results.
OKRs, huh? Sounds kind of dense. I'll be honest, haven't encountered those much myself.
I know, right? It sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Think of it this way. With OKRs, you're not just setting a target, you're actually outlining the measurable steps to get there.
So it's less pie in the sky and more like, here's the staircase, let's climb.
Exactly. It's all about breaking those big, intimidating goals into smaller, actionable steps.
Which, let's be real, is crucial for entrepreneurs. Things change so fast in the startup world.
All the time. With OKRs, you've got that built-in flexibility. You can adapt as you go.
Makes sense. So instead of getting overwhelmed by the enormity of it all, we can focus on those smaller milestones.
Precisely. Now, the article also touches upon the Eisenhower matrix. Have you used that in your work at all?
Oh, the Eisenhower matrix.
Yeah.
I have. It's all about separating what's urgent versus what's important.
Exactly. And this is a game changer, especially for entrepreneurs. It's so easy to get stuck in firefighting mode.
Right. Always putting out the most urgent fires.
But the Eisenhower matrix forces you to create space for those important but not urgent tasks. You know, the ones we often neglect.
Oh, I know those all too well. They're usually the ones that really move the needle in the long run, too.
Exactly. And that's where scheduling comes in. And I know, some entrepreneurs might cringe at the thought.
Oh, I can hear it now. Don't confine my creative spirit with a calendar.
Haha, exactly. But hear me out. It doesn't need to be rigid. It's more about managing something called decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue. Is that like when I spend an hour scrolling through Netflix but end up watching Friends reruns because I just can't decide?
You know what? That's a pretty good analogy. But seriously, in the entrepreneurial world, decision fatigue is a productivity killer. When you're constantly bombarded with choices,
Which we are.
it drains your mental energy. Having a schedule, even a loose one, helps conserve that energy for the important stuff.
So it's less about sticking to a strict timetable and more about creating some breathing room, some structure so our brains don't short circuit.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. No, another topic the article really dives into is delegation. And I have a feeling this one's close to your heart.
You already know. It's something I'm super passionate about, and for good reason. So many entrepreneurs, especially when they're first starting out, fall into the trap of
If you want it done right, you got to do it yourself.
bingo. And look, I get it. We're passionate about our businesses, but that mindset, it's a recipe for burnout. Trust me. I've been there.
Oh, I believe it. Trying to wear all the hats, be everything to everyone. It's exhausting. And let's be honest, it's not sustainable if you actually want to grow your business.
Couldn't agree more. It's about shifting your mindset from I have to do it all to I need to focus on what I do best.
So finding your zone of genius and trusting others to handle the rest.
Exactly. Delegation isn't about giving up control. It's about strategically leveraging your time and resources. It's about finding the right people, giving them the tools they need, and trusting them to get the job done.
And that's a whole other skill set in itself. Trusting that the people you bring on board are going to care about your business as much as you do.
It takes time to build that trust, absolutely. But the payoff is huge, because when you can delegate effectively, it frees you up to focus on what you do best, which, let's be honest, is what's going to move the needle in your business.
Okay, I'm convinced. Delegation is key. But let's talk about another productivity killer, and that's multitasking.
Ah, yes. The myth of multitasking. We all try to do it, but the reality is,
It's not really a thing, is it? Our brains just can't handle it.
exactly. It just means we're rapidly switching our attention between tasks. And that constant context switching, it takes a toll on our focus, on our productivity, on the quality of our work.
And probably our sanity, too.
Oh, absolutely. So as tempting as it is to juggle multiple things at once, focusing on one task at a time is actually far more productive.
Single tasking. It's the new multitasking. Who knew?
Right. It sounds almost too simple, but trust me, your brain will thank you.
So we're all about that single tasking life now.
Yeah.
But even when we're laser focused on one thing, there's still distractions.
Oh, tell me about it. It's like the entrepreneur's biggest challenge. staying focused amidst the chaos.
Right. It's like the universe wants to test us. And the article actually talks about this, specifically the importance of having the right tools, but also the danger of getting too caught up in the tech itself.
It's so true. You can have all the productivity apps in the world, but if you don't understand your own work
They're
habits,
not going to magically solve all your problems.
exactly. It's about using tech strategically, not letting it become the distraction itself.
100%. So speaking of distractions, let's talk about some of those productivity killers. Because let's be real, entrepreneurs are constantly bombarded with information,
It's the blessing and the curse of the digital age, right? We're connected 24/7.
which is amazing for opportunity, but also overwhelming.
Totally. It's like this constant stream of emails, notifications, messages. It never ends.
But it's so easy to get sucked into it. I'm guilty of it too, checking my phone during downtime, even when I'm supposed to be relaxing.
We've all been there. But the key is to create those boundaries, protect our time and attention. It's not easy, though.
Not at all. So where do we even begin? The article mentioned something about turning off non-essential notifications.
Yes, that's a big one. Do you really need to know every time someone likes your Instagram post? Especially when you're in the middle of deep work.
Probably not. But it's so tempting to check. It's like this little dopamine hit.
I know. Our brains are wired for that instant gratification. But those distractions add up. They fragment our focus and kill our productivity. Another thing the article emphasized was do not disturb mode.
Oh, that's a good one. I need to use that more often.
It's a game changer, setting aside dedicated blocks of time where you're truly unreachable.
I can see how that would be helpful, but it also feels a little scary. Like, what if I miss something important?
I get it. It's counterintuitive, especially for entrepreneurs. We want to be responsive, available,
Always on.
right? But those boundaries are essential, and honestly, most things can wait.
I know you're right. It's just about retraining those ingrained habits, those knee-jerk reactions, to respond immediately.
It takes practice, but the payoff is huge. When you can disconnect from those external demands, you can actually get real work done.
No notifications, no distractions, just pure, unadulterated focus. Like the sound of that.
It's a beautiful thing. And speaking of boundaries, the article also touched on something that can be really tough for entrepreneurs. Saying no.
Yes. The dreaded N word for entrepreneurs.
Right. We want to say yes to everything, every opportunity, every collaboration.
It's that fear of missing out, right? Like,
Yeah.
we have to say yes to everything because we're just starting out.
Exactly. But the reality is, every time you say yes to something that's not aligned with your goals, you're saying no to something else.
Something that might actually be more important in the long run.
Exactly. It's about being protective of your time and energy. And that means getting comfortable with saying no.
It's not easy, though, is it? It's like that internal struggle. I should say, yes, it's a good opportunity, but
But it's not the right fit for you right now. And that's okay. It's about being strategic and focusing on what truly matters.
so how do we get better at that? Saying no gracefully without feeling guilty or like we're burning bridges.
It's a skill, for sure, but it starts with knowing your priorities. When you're clear on what matters most, it's easier to say no to the things that don't align with those priorities.
Okay, that makes sense. But even when we're being intentional with our yeses and our nos, there are still only so many hours in the day.
Right, and that's where automation comes in. Because as much as we try to optimize our time, there are some tasks that are just time-consuming.
Now, let's be honest, kind of tedious.
Exactly. And that's where automation can be a lifesaver. It's about identifying those tasks that can be streamlined or even completely taken off your plate.
So we can focus on the stuff that really moves the needle.
Precisely. Think about it. What are some of the tasks that you dread doing? The ones that suck up your time and energy but don't necessarily require your unique skills.
Okay, I'm thinking. Definitely email management. Scheduling social media posts. Maybe even some of those repetitive customer service inquiries.
See, all of those tasks can be automated to some extent. There are tools out there that can handle that stuff for you.
Which frees you up to focus on what you do best. I like where this is going.
It's all about working smarter, not harder. Because let's be honest, we've only got so much bandwidth.
And our brains need a break sometimes.
Right.
Which reminds me, this next part of the article really surprised me. It talked about the importance of breaks.
Ah, yes. The power of downtime. I know it seems counterintuitive.
Especially in the entrepreneurial world,
Yeah.
where it's all about hustle and grind.
Right. But the reality is, our brains aren't designed to be on all the time. We need those periods of rest and recharge to function at our best.
I have to admit, this is something I struggle with. Like, I wear my I'll sleep when I'm dead badge with a weird sense of pride.
I get it. The hustle culture is real, but it's not sustainable. We're not machines. Our brains need those moments of downtime to process information, to come up with new ideas.
And it's just, not burn out completely.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, working hard, but also prioritizing rest and recovery.
Okay, I'm listening. Convince me. Why are breaks so crucial, even when we're talking about maximizing productivity?
Because they actually make us more productive. It seems counterintuitive, I know. But when we give our brains a chance to rest and recharge, we come back to our work feeling more focused, more creative, more energized.
So it's like hitting the reset button, clearing out the mental clutter.
Exactly. Think about it like this. If you were running a marathon, would you try to sprint the entire way?
No. I'd probably collapse before the finish line.
Exactly. Our brains are the same way. They need those periods of rest and recovery to function at their best. And that's something the article emphasized too, the importance of regularly reviewing and tweaking our time management systems. What do you think about that?
You mean not just setting it and forgetting it? Makes sense. What worked for me a year ago might not be the best approach today.
Exactly. Our businesses evolve, our priorities shift, and our time management strategies need to keep pace.
So it's not about finding that one perfect system and sticking to it religiously.
Not at all. It's about being adaptable, being willing to make adjustments as we go. The article actually suggested a weekly review practice. Have you ever tried that?
A weekly review. I haven't, but I'm intrigued. What does that look like?
It's pretty simple, really. Just take a little time at the end of each week to reflect on what went well, what didn't go so well, and what you can learn from those experiences.
So it's about identifying those patterns, those habits, those little things that might be throwing us off track.
Precisely. Maybe you realize that certain types of tasks drain your energy, so you start scheduling them for times when you're typically less focused.
Or maybe you discover that you're most productive in the mornings, so you protect those hours for your most important work.
Exactly. It's about fine-tuning your approach as you go.
Love that.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on one final point from the article. It's something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, and it's something we haven't really talked about much today, and that's outsourcing life admin.
Ah, yes. Because even entrepreneurs have to eat and sleep and do laundry occasionally.
It's so true, but it's so easy to let those everyday tasks pile up when you're laser focused on building a business.
Absolutely. We tell ourselves we'll get to it later, but then later never comes. Or we try to squeeze it all in during those precious few free moments.
Which just leaves us feeling even more stressed and overwhelmed.
Exactly. And that's why outsourcing life admin can be so freeing. It's about reclaiming those precious hours and using them for something you actually enjoy. Or just, for some much needed downtime.
Okay, so how do we get better at this? Outsourcing those tasks that we tend to dread or put off.
It starts with identifying those tasks that are draining your energy or stealing time away from your most important work. Once you've got a list, you can start exploring your options.
So if grocery shopping is my nemesis, I could try a grocery delivery service.
Exactly. Or if tackling that mountain of laundry feels like an insurmountable task, maybe it's time to consider a laundry service.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light. It's about giving ourselves permission to let go of those tasks that don't bring us joy or move the needle in our businesses.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can start small.
Test the waters. See how it feels to hand off some of those responsibilities.
Exactly. And who knows? You might even find that you enjoy your life more when you're not bogged down by those everyday tasks.
This has been an incredible deep dive, honestly. We've covered so much ground today, from setting effective goals and embracing delegation to single tasking like pros, automating those tedious tasks, and even giving ourselves permission to take breaks.
And don't forget about outsourcing that life admin. It's a game changer, I promise.
So true. If you're listening out there feeling inspired to take control of your time and unlock your productivity, remember this: your time is your most valuable asset. Treat it accordingly.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Find what works for you, be willing to adapt, and don't be afraid to experiment.
Words to live by. Well, until next time, happy time hacking, everyone.